Hello, everyone. Come on over here, Mandy. Great to be back in my hometown of Buffalo. My husband's from Cheektowaga. I grew up in Woodlawn and Hamburg, and now we live in the city of Buffalo. So it is great to be back in Bill's country. And I wanted to come here to a store that I've shopped in before, just much like the Tops that was around the corner from where we grew up, where I spent countless hours as a young mom trying to make ends meet at a time when I wasn't working. My husband had a public servant, so the income was not that high. And I know personally what it was like when those bills would come in every month, and you just pray that you're going to be able to get through with the paycheck you had and get through another month. And when I see parents today, my own children, same age as our friend Mandy here and Josh, our 2-year-old granddaughter, I see the struggles that so many families are going through. Now, a nice store like Tops, they're working hard to keep prices down. There's a lot of items on sale, but when you add up the cost of a grocery cart these days, it is shockingly high all across the country. Whatever's driving up the cost, whether it's supply chain and climate change affecting the farmers, our citizens are taking on the chin, and it's too much. And what I realized in walking through the store with Mandy and her little almost 10-month-old daughter, and she has a son at home, it just feels like you're not getting ahead. And we need to understand, and leaders like myself need to understand how hard it is, not just to show empathy and say I understand, but to actually do something about it. And I realize because New Yorkers have had to pay so much more over the last 3 years because of inflation, prices going up far beyond what you could have budgeted for, everything from sneakers to baby clothes to diapers to food, that we as a state collected more in sales tax revenues than we budgeted for, than we anticipated. Over $3 billion more out of the pockets of hardworking New Yorkers. Now that could stay in the state, and there'll be a lot of pressure from elected officials and special interest groups who say, no, spend that at the state level, figure out a different way. And I'm saying no. I'm on the side of hardworking people like we have right here in Cheektowaga, New York, who go to work every day, want to live the American dream, try to pay for their house or their rent, think about college someday, setting aside a little bit of money and just getting through every day. Those are the people that I'm fighting for because this is where I come from. I know how to stretch to make ends meet. I know what it's like to try to support a family on one income. And I saw what my parents had to do with a family of 8, stretching the groceries, buying stale bread and Twinkies and stuffing them in the freezer, and we'd have them weeks later. That's what families today are doing, and I understand it. So I said, why don't we put our families first and put that money right back in their pockets? And we can do that. I have a plan. It'll be in my State of the State address, as well as many other initiatives to address the affordability challenges in our state. I will unveil this plan, and what I call it is our inflation rebate. What's that? It says the money should be going back into your pockets. Families earning less than $300,000 will get $500 more. Single individuals will have $300 more to go shopping at a Tops. Help pay their bills, help set aside a little bit of money, and just take some of that stress off for a time when they can have other things to worry about. That's who I'm going to continue fighting for as governor. I'm proud to be here with Mandy, who's been sharing with me some of her challenges and why this means so much to her. So at this point, let me turn it over to Mandy, because we don't know how long her little cutie daughter is going to last. It's around nap time, and her husband, Josh, who's been a great supporter. But Mandy, what is it like to shop, but what does it also feel like to know that if I'm successful and I'm going to fight hard to get this money for you, that we can at least make a difference for you for a short time?
Well, it would definitely take the pressure off, and that can help me invest in other things. If that covers a couple of weeks of groceries, maybe I can look at getting a car seat I'm going to need for her in a couple of months. Daycare, all of that. It feels like every time I think I'm starting to get ahead or catch up, then inflation keeps going, prices change, or the supply chain has an issue. So this would definitely help, not just me, but so many people I know. Affordability is a problem, and thank you for addressing it.
All right. Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate you coming here today, and we'll let you get back to your little sweetie pie. Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to Mandy and her family and Josh and everybody. Thank you. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of the TOPS organization here and our representatives from the union that looks out for all these great workers here. It's really good to be back home again. I recognize the way the food's laid out. I know my path that I used to always follow, and it's great to be home again. Happy to take any on topics first. Yes. What we've already done since I've been governor, a middle-class tax cut, expedited that. We had a property tax cut. We also, when you think about education costs, we made tuition assistance available to more people and to people who are part-time students. We are helping families with childcare, which is a huge driver of their expenses when you have little ones. Families earning $108,000 or less only have to pay $15 a week under our child care plan. That's a big difference for them, as well as increasing the child tax credit. When I first became governor, there was a tax credit for children 4 years old and up. But I said, I'm a mom. The most expensive time was when they're babies. They grow out of everything, the formula, the diapers. So newborns on up get this tax credit. We announced our summer of affordability. We put money back in people's pockets for everything from food to their telling them that we'd have money for their heating costs. So I understand that this isn't going to solve all problems, but it's acknowledgement that money back in your pocket, the people of New York, is where it belongs, not in the state coffers. I want them to have it. I want to relieve the stress for at least a short time, but also all the other policies that I've done already, but will continue to do. And the inflation, I ensured that we were the first time ever, that our minimum wage, as it went up, also went up with the rate of inflation. We did that even before inflation was an issue. So your wages, if you're a minimum wage earner, go up higher if inflation goes up higher. So those are some of the things that we've done to address the affordability crisis. Yes, working on that intensely. And the child tax credit is a vehicle to help reduce poverty, but help families. Middle-class tax cuts are something we're looking at right now. Heating costs, what we can do with our energy policies and make sure we set aside more money to help people, especially in a place like Buffalo, especially to our friends who've been hit really hard with the snow. I remember from Hamburg being stranded at home with little kids, running out of food. The heat is off, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but opening up the oven just to have some warmth in a room for my little ones. So I understand what it's like and what heating costs are like. We need reliability, we need lower costs for that. So we are addressing all of those. But again, this is not new to us. This is a continuation of what we've done, but we need to do more, and I recognize that. I just gave you sneak previews, Jim. Jim, that's enough. That's enough. Pay attention. I need you to come to the State of the State address, January 14th. Be there.
Any other on topic?
All right.
Brian?
Governor, the wrong step expansion was delivered to your desk yesterday. Fitting, we're in a TOPS. There are obviously families in Western New York that this bill means a lot to. You vetoed 2 versions of it. Have you had any meaningful progress toward common ground this time? And if you were to veto it again, how do you explain it
I'm looking at the bill right now, but my heart always breaks when I think about what those families have been through. I have visited them, I've hugged them, I've grieved with them. It's a pain that never goes away. And we've done a lot to try and lift up the community, over $50 million of investments to help the people of that neighborhood get the support they need. But it's still a loss, and I recognize that. We have been putting forth compromise plans for a number of years that we think make sense for families, but also the costs that'll be passed on in higher insurance premiums for families, for businesses, for the state, for local governments, hospitals, doctors. There is a concern about the impacts that have not been properly studied. And I've been willing to compromise, but it takes two to make that happen, and we've not been able to achieve that thus far in past years, but it is still being looked at as we speak. No. Now, I was just meeting with business leaders this morning, asking them, and they are very optimistic about downtown Buffalo. I want you to know that. The premier leaders of this community are bullish on downtown Buffalo. They are telling me that people are starting to come back. I mean, there was a time everybody was remote, then it's 2 days, now it's 3 days. I will tell them that if New York City is the canary in the mine, it is now 4 days and 5 days for many. That is where we're heading. So this is still a temporary situation, but we have to get the workers back ingrained to know, especially in an office, you will get ahead if you ask to take the boss out for a cup of coffee in person or have that conversation in the elevator. This is something Jamie Dimon told me. He said, those who are staying home are not talking to me in the elevator, and I'm not inviting them to my office, and they're not getting ahead. So I think there's a realization, and certainly in certain professions, where the mentorship, but also the creative collisions that occur. You think about some of the greatest companies, the greatest technology companies in our country, a lot of it's just young people getting together, the barista in the office, and coming up with something. And we have to stimulate that innovative sense again of possibility and solving problems. And it doesn't happen where people are working remotely. So I think this is still a temporary situation. I'm very focused on this, making sure that we create a positive business climate for people to want to be downtown. You have to make sure your streets are safe. We've been focused on this, make sure the streets are clean, and move ahead some of the projects faster than I've seen. I'm very impatient, but as a Buffalonian, this is more than personal to me. This is home. Anybody else? We have to deal in a world of reality. We have very ambitious energy goals in the state of New York because we want to lead the nation, and we have seen the effects of climate change in such a dramatic fashion that if you quantify all the major effects that we've experienced, even in the last year, it is extraordinary. More tornadoes in the state of New York in 1 month than all of Tornado Alley. A drought, 1,000-year floods, snow bands that don't seem to move. We've had forest fires in the state of New York, so we have a crisis with our environment. We're living it, and it is expensive. Every one of those incidents costs a lot of money to localities, business, and individuals. So we have a moral responsibility to do everything we can to transition to clean, renewable energy. But I also know that the pandemic disrupted so much with supply chain and manufacturers, whether it's home heating pumps, or whether it's electric vehicles. So I need to be working closely with the legislature, saying we are not walking back from our aspirations and our goals, but I have to do it in a way that makes sense so we can continue the building that has to happen. I need more housing built. A place like Buffalo that used to be among the nationally most affordable places, we are proud of that. Prices were low. Because there's such demand, people want to be here. Young people want to be here. They want to buy that home. We have not met the demand. Our supply has not met the demand, and I want to make sure we do everything we can to stimulate more buildings. So those are issues that we're talking about to make sure that we're being realistic about what can happen. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thank you.